My simple idea if elected president? Easy. 2 recesses a day. Every damn day. Joe Biden ran for president on a very simple idea. Government and the country works best when people from opposing parties work together. And he cast himself as someone who was uniquely suited to restoke the desire for bipartisanship in Congress and in the country. Quote, "Today on this January day, my whole soul is in this, bringing America together," Biden said in his inaugural address, adding, "uniting our people and uniting our nation." Then, later in that same inaugural speech, Biden offered this.
"For without unity, there is no peace, only bitterness and fury. No progress, only exhausting outrage. No nation, only a state of chaos. This is our historic moment of crisis and challenge, and unity is the path forward."
Liberals openly worried that Biden's slavish commitment to bipartisanship was in fact a relic of a bygone era, and that attempts to find Republicans who would support his policies would not only fail, but would also lessen the chances of pushing progressive priorities at a moment when Democrats control all levels of political power in Washington. That Biden's incrementalism, this was the fear, as demonstrated during his decades in the Senate, was a uniquely bad fit for these dire times. Well, worry no more. The first 80 or so days of Biden's presidency have been defined by a series of executive orders, laws, legislative maneuvers, and policy proposals that suggest that the 46th president is willing to go bigger, bolder, and yes, more liberal than many observers of either party thought he would. Consider the following examples. Biden proposed and pushed to passage a $1.9 trillion stimulus bill aimed at reviving the American economy devastated by the COVID-19 pandemic. He did so with only Democratic votes and dismissed Republican attempts to slim down the legislation. Biden unveiled a $2 trillion infrastructure plan late last month that he touted as a, quote, once-in-a-generation investment in America, unlike anything we've seen or done since we built the interstate highway system and the space race decades ago. As to so far unified Republican opposition to that infrastructure proposal, Biden forcefully indicated in early April that he was open to compromise, but he was not open to doing nothing.
Debate is welcome. Compromise is inevitable. Changes are certain. But here's what we won't be open to. We will not be open to doing nothing. Inaction simply is not an option.
In late January 2021, Biden proposed a sweeping plan aimed at reducing the U.S.'s dependence on fossil fuels and addressing the looming climate crisis. Quote, "It's not time for small measures," Biden said in unveiling that plan. In February, the next month, Biden put out what CNN described as a sweeping immigration bill that included a pathway to citizenship for people in the country illegally. In announcing several executive orders on gun control, again in mid-April, Biden made a blunt call for broader measures by Congress. Quote, "They can do it right now," he said. "They've offered plenty of thoughts and prayers, members of Congress, but they have passed not a single new federal law to reduce gun violence. Enough prayers, time for some action." End quote. And that's not to mention Biden's suspension of the Keystone XL pipeline being built, his decisions to rejoin the World Health Organization and the Paris Climate Accord, or his move to set up a bipartisan commission aimed at considering structural changes to the composition of the Supreme Court, which he announced in mid-April. So, what happened? How did a staid institutionalist and self-professed pragmatic deal-maker during his time in the Senate and during his time as vice president turn into a big swing progressive? It's a good question. The answer, I think, lies in basically two places. 2 and 2. Chuck Woolery. Place number 1. Biden truly believes that the combination of Donald Trump's presidency and the COVID-19 pandemic wound up creating a historic moment in which the direction of the country is teetering uncertainly. Quote, "We are in the battle for the soul of this nation," Biden said way back in April 2019 when he announced his presidential campaign. And by the way, I'll note that was before the world had ever heard of COVID-19 that he said those words. The depth and the breadth of the challenges, that's economic, public health, environmental, posed by this moment require a response from government that is both big and bold, or at least that's what Biden and his team believe. And polls suggest many of their ideas have support among Republican voters, if not Republican politicians, which leads us to point number 2. Biden spent 8 years, or at least the first 4 years, watching President Barack Obama try and fail to find compromise with Republican politicians on, well, much of anything. That searing experience showed Joe Biden that the Republican Party that he had found to be a willing partner in days of yore was, in days of yore, gone. And in its place was a party that believed total obstruction was their winning strategy. The New York Times' Ezra Klein, former colleague of mine, now a columnist at the Times, made this point, I think, really well in a recent opinion piece, and I want to quote the key bit here. Quote, "The result is that Obama, Biden, the key political strategists who advised Biden, and almost the entire Democratic Congressional Caucus simply stopped believing Republicans would ever vote for major Democratic bills." End quote. Add it up, violent femmes, and you get this. A man in Biden who believes that the moment demands radical and bold change, whether or not Republicans are willing to come along for the ride. Which isn't the Joe Biden that most people, including most Democrats, likely thought they were getting when they voted for him in 2020. But it's the Joe Biden that we have, at least for now. And that is the point. We make new point videos every Tuesday and Thursday. Check them all out.